Welcome back. This is Mr. Timms, and today we're going to talk about jazz rhythm patterns. And this is related to one of our learning outcomes, which is learning how to teach jazz rhythm patterns. Some of you may know some of these patterns. Once we talk about them, you're going to recognize them immediately. Let's go right into it. The great pianist and composer Duke Ellington made this statement. He said, "It don't mean a thing if it don't have that swing." Now, when he said this, he was emphasizing the point that rhythm is essential to the feeling and the punch and the pop of swing music. It makes you want to, snap, makes you want to move, makes you want to create. And so that's a true statement. It don't mean a thing if it don't have that swing. And today we're going to, have you to experience these typical rhythm patterns. And we have 4 rhythm patterns that are essential when you are teaching 3rd graders, 4th graders, 5th graders, and 6th graders. The first thing is the walking bass line. We're going to give you more information about that. It's going to be basically, what do you do with those 4 quarter notes? Here's another one, the Charleston. Another one is jazz swing ride cymbal. And the last one is emphasis on 2 and 4. First jazz rhythm pattern is the walking bass line. Now, walking bass line implies exactly what it means. You are walking. Let's try to walk on a beat. We're going to have continuous quarter notes. By the way, that is an important part of the walking bass line rhythm pattern. Just simply walk a footstep, start on your right and your left for every beat. Ready, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop. Now that's pretty simple, and most of our students are going to be able to do that, but you need to have them to be able to move with the music and experience what you're talking about. I would highly suggest that you have a pre-recorded example of a bass line. And in many cases there are all over YouTube examples of improvised bass line, jazz bass line. You type that in and you are able to have that, or you can create it yourself. So let's go ahead. We're going to pretend that we have a selection of a walking bass line, and then I'm going to play you a sample one. Here we go. And I'm going to scat sing for you a walking bass line. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Do 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 do. So I kept the beat, and it's important, especially with the younger ones, the 3rd graders, you make sure that they're emphasizing that beat and moving on the beat. Now let's talk about what I was doing when I was scat singing. Now, look at this example that I have here, and this shows the chord progression that I was singing with. We have a G minor 7 chord, followed by a C7 chord, followed by an F major chord and another F major chord. Now, predominantly in this, with the exception of these right here, which are 2 eighth notes, we have all quarter notes. So when you ask someone to walk in jazz as far as the bass line, this is what they're going to do: continuous stream of quarter notes. So look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, quarter, 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 quarter. All right, so that's the first one you need to do, is keep the quarter notes steady with occasional eighth notes. Okay, here is the second thing I wanted you to know that you should teach your students, is that in the walking bass line, you have chromatic voice leading. It can also be diatonic, but the reason I say chromatic, because it gives movement to the line. So pay attention to these 2 notes right here. We have a B flat and a B natural. Now, when you're looking at the B flat and the B natural, understand that within the chord, we have the G minor 7th, and B flat is the 3rd. And we're going to raise the 3rd, creates dissonance within that chord, but then also provides leading tone into the next one. So from B natural up into C. And it has an interesting sound, and it gives your music forward momentum. Okay, I'm going to demonstrate what we have on the board, and if you haven't already, go ahead and take a picture of it, and I want you to try to play it on your tenor Orff instrument as a sample bass line that you could do. Here we go. I'm gonna play it for you, try to play it by memory. Here we go. All right, let's try it again. Now I want you, the student, to walk with me so you can experience this with me. 1, 2, ready, go. Now get your tenor Orff xylophone out, and I want you to play with me. 1, 2, ready, play. Now I took some liberties at the end, added some different notes, and that's what you do as a jazz musician. You improvise. Everything doesn't have to always be the same. You play what you think you're hearing in your head. That's spontaneous improvisation, which we're getting to. Now, when you play this or you teach a student this, you emphasize that. Say, just as long as those quarter notes, the quarter notes move steady, and you make some chromatic alterations. Now, I do realize that our younger students are going to struggle with that, and you're going to have to teach them what do I mean by chromatic alteration. And for example, you can have them do this right here. And tell them, doesn't it sound like it's leading into the next one? All right. You can even have them sing that. B flat, B natural, C. You sing it with me. Ready, go. B flat, B natural, C. All right. And remember, the goal is sound before sight. Sound before sight. So I would not suggest writing this out and giving this to them, because this is an oral tradition. It's sound before sight. Okay, we're going to move on to the next jazz rhythm. Second jazz rhythm pattern is the Charleston. Now, the Charleston is a dance rhythm from the 1920s that was made famous by the composer James Johnson. And they called it the Charleston because they would dance this in Charleston, South Carolina. It became a dance craze. The best way to have the students to see how important this rhythm is in jazz is, number one, go straight to the source. Let them see old video footage of people dancing the Charleston, and let them see the excitement and the movement, and they will get a good idea of why this was an important part of jazz. Now, this is a great opportunity for you as the music educator to use interdisciplinary studies. You know, maybe you want to collaborate with the social studies teachers or the English language arts teacher. So that's a side note, but that's one thing you may want to consider when you get to the section on jazz rhythm patterns, talking about the Charleston and relating it to the Roaring Twenties and the jazz age. All right, let's go on to the B part. This is how I teach the rhythm. Number one, I play the rhythm, and here it is right here. Now I'm using this chord progression, G minor, followed by C7, followed by F major chord. And that is a 2, 5, 1. This is the 2 in the key of F. This is a 5 chord in the key of F. And of course, this is 1 in the key of F major. This is a very important chord sequence that many improvising jazz musicians memorize and are able to play melodic ideals upon in a spontaneous manner. But anyway, here is the pattern right here. You have a dotted eighth quarter note followed by an eighth note tied to another quarter note and the rest. Then you have a dotted quarter note followed by an eighth followed by a quarter, and they're tied again, and it continues on. Notice I have Charleston, Charleston, Charleston. Let's see if you can say that with me. I'm going to play it again like I played it before. Now, if you have an alto or the soprano Orff instrument available, you can use that and play with me. All right? If you can pause and you need to pause and get yourself ready to do that, you can. But here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. Charleston, 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 Charleston. Now what I use? I'm using the root, which is G, and a B flat. Charleston, and that's on the first G minor 7. And then on the C7, I'm just using the root in the third. Charleston, and you can do that with the C and the E. Then I'm using an F major, and I'm inverting the chord with the fifth on the bottom. I'm only doing 2 notes. So we're gonna do C with your left hand and F with your right. Charleston. So let's see if you can play that with me. And you say Charleston with me. This is how I would teach the students to do it. Let's see if you can do it with me. Ready, 2, ready, go. Charleston, 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 Charleston. Again, Charleston, 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 Charleston. So that's an infectious rhythm, basic, teaching young musicians how to recognize that rhythm pattern. Never give a student, especially in general music, more than 2 notes at a time, because they only have 2 mallets. And I would make it symmetrical in which they can move it minimally, not a lot of moving and jumping up and down. Okay, let's do it one more time, just to get it in our fingers. Ready, 2, ready, go. Charleston, 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 Charleston. One more time. Charleston, 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 Charleston. Now you don't have to do root third. You can do root fifth as well. You can, if you have a low playing instrument such as the tenor xylophone Orff instrument, you could just play the third and the 7th. So it really depends on you, and also depends on also the key. We know that these Orff instruments are limited, so you want to try to find a key that would match the instruments that you can develop. But you can do a whole lot of music with these instruments. All right, so we're going to go on to our third jazz rhythm pattern. Another essential jazz rhythm pattern is the jazz ride cymbal. This is usually the very first rhythm. If someone is playing the drums, this is what they're going to learn to play. This sets the pace, it creates momentum, and it's really interesting. I think you need to hear it first. We talk about sound before sight. So I'm going to play it for you first so you can get it in your head. I apologize in advance. I won't hit the cymbal too long and too hard. It does ring. So here we go. So that's the jazz ride cymbal pattern. And there's 3 ways I like to teach it. First, it's important that you give the students words to say. A thing I like to do that always gets them laughing and get them having a good time, I have them talk about something they like to talk about. For example, bubble gum. So all of the students, they love to talk about bubble gum. So you can say gum and tell them say gum, they'll say gum. Let's try it, you do it. Gum, gum, gum. There you go, so you got it. So the next one, you're gonna say gum, bubble gum. You echo me. Gum, bubble gum. Gum bubble gum. Gum bubble gum bubble gum bubble gum. Great. That's how you would teach that. You get them to say it and connect the rhythm with the words. Another word that we do is almost like scat singing. We've been talking about scat singing. Here it is. You could say sprang, sprang, galang. Try that. Sprang, sprang, galang. Sprang, sprang, galang. Sprang, sprang, galang. And then we're going to keep it going. So as soon as you catch the rhythm, you say it with me. Sprang, sprang, galang, 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 sprang, galang. So as you see, that is one of the basic jazz rhythm patterns. Now, I do believe it's time for us to write that pattern on the board. And I'm going to move this cymbal for a moment, get it out of our way. And here is the jazz ride cymbal pattern. It's going to be, it's going to be a quarter note first. I'm having problems with my marker here. It's going to be a quarter note first. That's better. Followed by 2/8. Followed by another quarter note, followed by 2/8. And then we put a repeat on it. Your students will really enjoy doing this rhythm. Another way, now that I think about that, I like to teach it to them. I like them to put their hands together, because if you're having them practice on a cymbal, it can get rather loud. So to give yourself and the students a break, especially if you have students in the class who doesn't like that loud noise all the time. You have them do this right here. And you do the same rhythm, like sprang, sprang, galang, sprang, galang, sprang, galang. Watch this. You do it with me. Ready, two, ready, go. And that teaches the students that may need the kinesthetic part of it, where they can feel it again, okay? I really wouldn't suggest them go. Some people may do good with that. The reason why I say that is because that may be too quick for many people, especially if they're in the 3rd grade or 4th grade, to move their hand that quick, okay? They usually do really good if you give them 2 sticks. I have some sticks. You can use rhythm sticks too. So watch this. Many times I want to simulate how it's going to be, and I would have them sit on the floor and do that rhythm with some music that's playing. So I would have them go. And it's very rhythmic. Students love it, and it gets them to feel the rhythm and also play along with the music. A win-win situation. All right, we're going to talk about the next one in just a moment. Okay, jazz rhythm patterns. We're on number 4, and this is an emphasis on 2 and 4. Now, there is some cultural things involved with this. What I mean is, it will feel more natural for some students to play on 2 and 4, and more natural for others to play on 1 and 3. Now, since this is jazz music, the emphasis is on 2 and 4. I usually illustrate the difference between playing on 1 and 3 and 2 and 4 by, for example, playing John Philip Sousa march to them and letting them clap or tap or move on 1 and 3. For example, I'm going to sing a little short phrase from Stars and Stripes Forever, and I hope you recognize it. And I want you to clap on 1 and 3. This is what I would have my students do. Ready, 2, ready, sing with me. Da 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 da. So as you see, it's on 1 and 3. Many times, especially the 3rd and 4th graders, maybe we'll march around the classroom, we'll move on 1 and 3, but that'll show them that's on 1 and 3. And then I would, to emphasize the jazz 2 and 4, we would listen to maybe Take the A Train. So, clap with me. So we'll play that and then get into the habit of it. But many times you have to really break it down and help them to see the difference. So one way to do so is to have them pat their foot on 1 and 3 and clap on 2 and 4. So we have to separate it first. So we're going to pat on 1 and 3, and we're going to pat our foot and say 1, 2, 3 at the same time. So, well, really 1 and 3. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only pat your foot on 1, 3. Just like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and stop. So as you see, you can get them to feel the difference and hear the difference between 2 and 4 and 1 and 3. Now, you can have them to make it, applicable to jazz. You're going to pat on 1, your foot on 1, and clap on 2. Ready? 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they make a connection between their body's moving, saying the numbers with the mouth, and the movement with their hands. All right. I have a snare drum. Some of you may have access to the snare drum. I want you to get a snare drum out, and I want you to see how it feels to play this emphasis on 2 and 4 on the snare drum. We usually play this with the hi-hat or the snare drum. It's more so the hi-hat, but for right now, we're going to do it on the snare drum. And I want you to pat your right foot on 1 and 3 and play 2 and 4 on the snare drum. All right? So you should get your instrument ready. Let's do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, pat. 3. So that's emphasis on 2 and 4. Now, jazz musicians like to use creativity. And if you're playing the snare, you want to have some kind of feelings. And here are 3 feelings that could work. Now, I do want to tell you on number 2 and 3, you have beat 1 right here. You don't have to necessarily come in on 2 on the next one. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But these are typical fill-ins that you'll hear. So it'll get very monotonous and boring if we just did 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 the whole time. But we need to have the fill-ins just to add variety. So this first fill-in goes like this. Rest, 2, 3. So rest, 2, 3, 4. Now see if you can play that with me. Rest, 2, 3. Now, some of you may be asking me, oh, but what hand am I using? It really depends on you. There's not a hard, fast rule. Unless you're playing in an ensemble, you want all of your drummers to have the same sticking patterns. But generally, the drummer is by himself or herself, so it doesn't matter. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Play with me. 1, 2, 3. Now, let's put it within context. Let's do this emphasis on 2 and 4 followed by that. And we're going to do this fill in about the second measure. Listen, this is how it goes. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So on the second measure, we don't do beat 4, we do the and 4. Play it with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, press. 1, 2, 3. All right, let's do it again. Let's do it about 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. So that's probably the first one you're going to hear. Here's another one. This is number 2. This is the one I was telling you about. You got to be careful about it because it lands on 1. So if you landed on 1, you don't have to necessarily come with beat 2. You can wait till beat 4. So listen. 1, 2, 3, begin. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Emphasizing the 1, but you can do that. It's one of those that if you come right in on beat 2 right after that, it may throw the band, so you have to be careful. So that's the basic fill in, and you kind of wait and come back in. Let's do number 3. Number 3 says 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, this is using syncopation and 1. And 1. Okay? This is using a little bit of syncopation right there. And syncopation, as we've been studying, is a major part of jazz playing. If you're a drummer out there listening, please forgive my drummer. I'm an instrumentalist, but this is correct right here as far as the emphasis on 2 and 4 and typical fill-ins. Now, I'm sure drummers could make this a whole lot complicated, but this is for the elementary music educator in mind, different ideals to teach the students. Now, I do want to show you how it would sound when you put them together, and I'm going to use few of these fill-ins, probably mainly just stick to number 1 because I don't want to get off on number 2 and 3. So on the next section, I'll show you how it will sound when you put the cymbal and the snare together. I have my ride cymbal and my snare, and I don't have the rest of the set. We'll talk about that in the next session. This is session 1 on jazz rhythm patterns. These are basic jazz rhythm patterns. And remember, our ride cymbal pattern is gum, bum, 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 bum. And then we're just going to emphasize on 2 and 4, rest, 3, rest, 3. Now, when we put them together like this, all right, here's a recap of jazz rhythm patterns. Number 1, you have to have a walking bass line with steady quarter notes using chromatic leading tones. Now, those steady quarter notes, you can throw in occasional 8th notes and a 16th note, but predominantly it's going to be walking quarter notes, okay? Charleston, it's a dance from the 1920s, and here's that rhythm right there, dotted quarter, followed by a tied 8 to a quarter and the rest. And a jazz swing ride cymbal. Remember, we make words with rhythms. Gum, bubble, gum, and it goes on and on, okay? Another words I used was sprang, galang. And you can invent your own words. Maybe you use your school mascot for your students. Emphasis on 2 and 4. So this is rest, 2, rest, 4. And remember, we patted our foot on one and clapped on two. And then we made application with the snare drum rhythm sticks. I talked about different fill-ins if you have a snare. All right, I have an assignment for you to do. Our assignment for this week, I want you to write your own original composition for your elementary students, using all the elements that we talked about. You know, it doesn't need to be over 10 to 12 measures. It can only be 8 measures. But it needs to put all of the elements, all together. Jazz ride cymbal pattern, emphasis on 2 and 4. And you need to use the 2, 5, 1 chords that we talked about. G minor, C7, and F major, okay? 2, 5, 1. All right? Well, after this, I have an excerpt of a song I wrote. It's called 2-5-I. Now, I is E-Y-E, but the reason why I put it like that, just try to kind of be funny, because when you use Roman numeral analysis, they do the 2, then they do the 5, 7, then they do the 1 like that. So that's why I said 2-5-I, because I see I there instead of the Roman numeral 1. So I hope you enjoy what I prepared for you, and I hope this would inspire you to create your own. All of these that I did in this video, I created on the spot, so there was no composition. What I mean is, I didn't sit down and write this out on staff paper. I just recorded the jazz swing pattern, then I recorded the Charleston pattern, then I recorded all other ones in an improvisatory way, okay? Well, I hope you have a good day, and thank you for listening and watching. 1, 2, 3, 4.